Alright guys, I am just going to get right to it today. This boat has been drying out with the air conditioning on for a little over a week now, so let's go ahead and start prepping for fiberglass. So my goal here was to use the mini belt sander as well as a random orbit sander to just grind away as much loose fiberglass as I possibly can. The Divinycell foam core is still good in most places, so that doesn't need to be replaced. It only needs some localized repairs, which, I'm going to do by opening up those areas and filling with some thickened epoxy. But what I'm doing here now is just inspecting, grinding, sanding. I'm saving as much good glass as I can while taking out as much bad glass as I possibly can. That's going to lay a solid foundation for the new laminate. The cracks that you see here are going to get opened up even more and filled with thickened epoxy. We're in the aft cabin here, and I decided that I had to cut away more of the liner so that I can get better access to the interior laminate back here. Unfortunately, this is going to make it take longer to rebuild the cabin liner, but it is necessary because I need the most access possible to the interior laminate here. And I'm just inspecting, taking a look. As you can see, there's a good amount of cracking back here. I originally thought I was going to be glassing both big sections at the same time, but then realized that is probably a little bit too ambitious, so I decided to focus on just this section right here, which is the section in the main salon and underneath the companionway. So the last step in getting this section prepped was to do something about the repair made by the previous owner, and that's what I'm doing here. Alright guys, let's talk a little bit. So I just ended up cutting a giant hole in this boat, mainly because this repair that the previous owner did was extremely shoddy. Couldn't be trusted at all. You guys want to see what happens when you use epoxy and you don't mix it properly, it doesn't cure properly? It turns into this crap. It just never dries. So yeah, I've got to fix all that. So it may look like a mess right now, but the process for repairing this, or at least what I'm gonna do, is, as you can see, I've cut out, you've got to cut out the cancer essentially. So I've cut out as much as I can. I've already scored this outer edge, so I'm gonna cut out a little bit more, probably about an inch around. It's not perfect, but basically about an inch around on the interior laminate, and then clean it all up, get rid of all this crap, and then re-glass it all, and it should be pretty good. I've got to glass the inside and the exterior now that I've obviously cut through the exterior laminate. So yeah. Alright guys, so I think we are almost ready to lay up some new glass back here. I went through and I ground out any loose fiberglass and any cracking. As you can see, there's some cracking there. Ground out all the loose fiberglass there, sanded it back down to good glass. Everything that's left is not delaminated, or just very barely, like stuff like this is just, that's fine. I don't need to grind that away. The new layer of glass will fix that. But I think it looks pretty good, and I went ahead and I've cleaned up all of this. As you can see, I took out some of the coring, left about an inch or so all around. It looks messy, but it's gonna look great when I'm done with it. What I'm gonna do is lay down new coring here, glass over it, and then I've got to go on the outside of the boat and glass the outside portion. So that'll be after I'm done with all of this though. But yeah, I think it's looking pretty good so far. Can't wait to get some new glass on this area. Oh, and one more interesting thing I found: from here to here, there's actually a layer of Kevlar that runs, down the length of the boat. So that provides a lot of stiffness for the boat as well. Okay, so I've got everything in the boat prepped now, and pretty much all I need to do is wipe everything down with alcohol just to clean it up prior to, laying down a new laminate. It's all been sanded. All of the loose glass has been grinded out and it's been vacuumed, it's all ready for me to go through and just, you know, put on 2 more layers of glass, as well as to patch that giant hole that I created from the inside. So the next step is I've got to start cutting the fiberglass that I'm going to be laminating in place. And as you can see, I'm in the RV because why not? It's air conditioned, it's enough space for me to work, and I really don't feel like making a mess out of the house right now, so might as well make a mess out of the RV. All right guys, so I got an order in from US Composites and Fiberglass Supply. This is 1/2 inch end grain balsa on a roll. That's gonna be the coring material I'm gonna be using. This is 1208 biaxial, it's 12 ounce biaxial fiberglass, e-glass, and then this is gonna be the peel ply. Gonna be using US Composites epoxy for this repair and not West System, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. So I'm not sponsored by US Composites or anything like that. I just generally like the epoxy. I've been using it, you know, for a long time. I actually started out using it to make surfboards, skimboards, and kiteboards, and it's really good stuff, and it's about half the price of West System. The price tag is definitely a plus, but that's actually not why I'm using this epoxy. The real reason is this slow hardener right here is a good amount slower than the slowest hardener that West System currently has. So basically I want as much working time as possible, and I'm working in Florida, and even though I am air conditioning the space, it is still pretty warm in there. So I have personally found, laying up glass in Florida my entire life, that I like this stuff better than West System for Florida weather, just because it gives me a lot more working time. And more working time is definitely a good thing when, you know, you're laying up large areas of glass and you're doing lots of different things. You definitely don't want that epoxy to start to kick while you're working on it. Anyway, that's it about the epoxy. Let's start cutting some fiberglass. Alright guys, there you have it. My camera died, so I didn't get to show you the cutting of the balsa, but it was pretty easy. You know, just scoring it with the utility knife. So got that circular cut right there. All my fiberglass laid out, and we are ready to start glassing. Let's go ahead and get everything set up in the boat and get it all clean, and we're gonna be doing some repair tonight. Here's a shot of everything before I get glassing. As you can see, there's a pretty big hole in our boat, but I'm gonna lay down, you know, the balsa right there. It's gonna lay there just fine, it shouldn't sag, and I'm gonna glass that in, and then after I glass the top, I'm gonna go back under the boat and glass the bottom. Now that area right there is gonna be filled back in with that Divinity cell. I'm just going to go through with some thickened epoxy and fill in the cracks, and then glass over everything. So should be pretty good, should be nice and strong. Oh, I forgot, I gotta go through and wipe everything down with alcohol first. Let's go ahead and do that. Alrighty guys, everything's gotten a vacuum and a wipe down. Should be pretty clean and ready to bond some epoxy and some new fiberglass. Let's go ahead and do it. This is the current spread right now, and as you guys can see, it's getting a little bit dark in here. Let's get to work. You guys might be asking why I'm using balsa instead of Divinity cell for the patch job that's included in the repair that I'm doing here. And that's actually because while most of the boat is Divinity cell, there is a balsa stringer running down the center line of the boat. So I'm actually just matching what was already there. Pound for pound, balsa is actually stronger than foam when it's not wet, of course. So that's why Corsair decided to use it for a stringer material here. Lastly, I want to apologize for my boxers showing there. At least it's not a plumber's crack. Alright guys, it's actually dusk of the next night, so it's been about 24 hours. And, you know, like I said earlier in this video, this is pretty slow curing epoxy, so it should be dry. I'm pretty sure, but I'm not 100% sure. Let's go ahead and check. I think it's going to be dry. So before I peel up this peel ply, I just want to say it's not my best peel ply job. I actually completely forgot to cut the peel ply. So I ended up cutting it at the last minute, and you know, it was already messy in here and I had to cut it in the boat. I was on a time crunch, or at least I felt like I was. Really, I had a lot more time to work. I probably could have just took my time about it, but I got it done. So let's see if this stuff peels up. Alright guys, so I've got the whole thing unpeeled and I think it looks pretty good. It's not at its full structural, strength yet, but already it feels super solid. I think this repair is done aside from, the other side of the hull. I've got to go under the hull and repair that part, but I'm gonna call this section a success. Just real quick, what I actually ended up doing is laying up one layer of 1208 over the entire area, and then another layer right here. So there's two layers right here. Another thin layer basically on each side here, about 4 to 6 inches. So there's a little bit of extra glass right there. So 2 layers right there, and then 2 layers over this whole area right here. So I think it looks pretty good. I definitely could have done a better job with the peel ply, but that doesn't really matter. And I could have done a better job with this. I ended up using a lot of resin to fill in the gaps here, a lot of thickened epoxy. And if I had cut that balsa better, I wouldn't have had to use that much thickened epoxy. But overall, for my first giant repair on a boat that's constructed like this, I think it's a pretty decent job. All right guys, it's the next day. It's a bit of an overcast day, so it's actually a good day to work outside here. We did get a little bit of rain today, but not too much. I did protect, that area with the open balsa with a rain skirt. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. But right now, basically what I need to do is I need to get this trailer out from, underneath the boat so that I can work underneath it and, glass that big hole in the boat tonight. So the goal for today is to, get that hole completely sealed up. I want to get the glass on by tonight. So this way I won't have to worry about, weather getting into the balsa core. It'll be completely sealed after tonight, hopefully. Let's see if we can get that done. So my goal here was just to slowly raise each stand, and as you can see, the boat is lifting up. I removed the center support, and now I'm just walking the trailer out by hand. Putting back that center support, lowering the boat back down, and I just want to say I absolutely love that I can do this at home in my side yard. This is amazing. Alright guys, that is that. As you can see now, the boat is blocked up in 8 different locations. So I think she's pretty stable. I think this is pretty cool. I could just remove the trailer like this. And then let's go ahead and take a look at my work down here. So I just put this bag here to protect the bunks. Not that I really care about them, but there is the balsa. So what I need to do now is just go ahead and, sand and taper the fiberglass here and then lay up some new laminate underneath this hole. So it did rain, but as you guys can see, I put like a little rain skirt around, and that diverted water, so this is nice and dry. And yeah, I think this isn't very thick laminate, so I'm only gonna have to taper it probably about 3/4 of an inch all the way around, and then boop, pop some new glass in there, and we should be good to go. I actually ended up tapering about 1 inch to 1.5 inches just for good measure all the way around the hole. I ended up adding 4 layers of 1208 by axle to this section. I added a little bit of chopped strand just to even it out in some spots, and then I covered the whole thing with some plastic to help prevent sagging. That's going to be it for this video, guys. Be sure to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow along. Have a good one, guys. See ya. I've got it right and I got it